Okay, welcome today to our case study. We are delighted to have Amy with us, who actually works on Rob's team. Now, Rob, as you know, is part of this whole program. And, he's the owner of the business and he's going to have a particular perspective. But Amy's one of the really key members in this business. So we thought we'd, go around the boss and actually get the real information from Amy. So that's what we're here to do today. Now, what we really want to know is you guys have done some fantastic work in your pharmacy, and it's really transformed the way that you work together. But before we get into talking about that, Amy, tell us just a little bit about you. How long you've been a pharmacist, and just where in Australia are you calling from today?
So my name's Amy. I'm a community pharmacist. I've been working in community pharmacy at Drummoyne for about 5 years now. It's a role that I'm super passionate about and I really enjoy. I love interacting with patients and I love being able to provide patient-centered healthcare and just help them out however I can.
And how big's your team? Tell us a little bit about your team.
So we have, I guess, a relatively small team. We have about 11 people in our team. I guess we're fairly pharmacist heavy. We do have quite a few pharmacists. We also have an intern and we also have a couple of shop assistants. I'd say we're a fairly close team.
Yeah, excellent. All right, Rob, give us a quick introduction to you for those that don't know you. And it'd be really cool to just tell us 30 seconds about where your pharmacy is situated, because I bet there's a lot of people who kind of say, okay, tell me a bit more about the actual pharmacy. So introduce us to you for those who don't know you.
Okay, my name is Rob and my wife and Dixon are the owners of this pharmacy. I'm not a pharmacist myself, but do have a corporate background, so a bit more of the business and human resources side of things. Our pharmacy is situated inner west of Sydney, quite a densely populated area, but it also has about 5 pharmacies within a kilometre of us.
Including a few discount pharmacies, I suspect, moving into that high density area.
So within 1 kilometre we've got a chemist warehouse and a Priceline pharmacy, and within 2 kilometres we've got two that expands to 2 chemist warehouses, a Cincotta, and quite a few other discounter pharmacies, and they've been around for at least 5 years now.
Yeah, okay. Now, and your pharmacy is actually situated within or right next to a medical practice, and it's kind of become quite a hub where you are. Is that, have I said that right?
Yeah, that's right. Our pharmacy is right next to a medical centre. We've opened up a nice big opening between the two of us, so there's a nice flow. So it does look integrated, however, they are still separate entities.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, and for those that don't know me, I'm Brett Odgers. I'm the culture coach. I'm a specialist in building high-performance teams across a whole bunch of industries. And I've been working a little bit with these guys, and they are, frankly, a star client. They have done some really, really good work. So, Amy, let's start with you. 12 months ago, you guys were a regular pharmacy, and in terms of the teamwork and the communication, what was it like? Give us just a bit of a picture of what a day-to-day was like, and what some of the challenges you faced as a pharmacist working within this small team.
Yeah, so I guess we just operated in a fairly sort of standard type way in terms of our roles. So the roles were probably a little bit more split up into, pharmacists doing pharmacist roles, shop assistants doing shop assistant roles, stock manager doing stock manager roles. So the pharmacist would sort of be doing all of those type of pharmacist roles within a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think yeah, definitely there were, you know, certain roles that people did prefer more or less, but, you know, they were sort of still on a day-to-day basis, they were still doing a little bit of everything. So an example would be like, say I was doing some of the orders or maybe some of the claim and things like that, whereas, you know, probably my natural tendency would be more towards, you know, counselling and services and things like that. I'm probably not the most efficient person when it comes to ordering and claims and those sorts of roles, so it maybe wasn't done in the most efficient way. But yeah, I think we were all just doing a little bit of everything, just spreading the role.
So I guess an average day was very reactionary, I guess, in a way. Like, you know, stuff was just happening and you were reacting and moving.
Whatever needed to be done that day was just what we did. So.
Yeah. So at the end of one of those days, I imagine you were probably fairly exhausted because your attention's going in 15 different directions.
Yeah, I guess you are spread a little bit thin in that respect because, you are covering quite a broad range of roles within one day.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing that I was, and let me know if I've got this right, was that you guys knew you were turning up to do a job, but you weren't super clear on what the big picture is or, you know, what, you know, where we were going as a team. You know, if we were a sports team, you know, a netball or a soccer team, you weren't clear on what our grand final was. Was that your experience?
Yeah, I guess we all sort of had our own personal priorities a little bit. So it wasn't necessarily maybe really well communicated what each person's individual priorities were for that day. So I guess there was maybe a little bit of guesswork or maybe not working together as a team as well because you all had your own sort of focus for the day.
Yeah, so you weren't all sort of in the same rowboat, you know, rowing at the same time. You were turning up and doing good work, but you probably weren't feeling kind of as together as you could be.
Cohesive, yeah.
Yeah. So
working cohesively,
Right. So Rob, let me bring you in here. So from your perspective, what did you sort of see in the team at this point?
I've kind of saw in terms of if you had a role, say, as a pharmacist, you've all got the same qualifications. There was a different range in skills. However, it didn't matter. A pharmacist is a pharmacist. So therefore, if you lacked in those skills, we would have just trained up those skills to kind of like make up for it. So all pharmacists, I guess from our perspective, were that they were created equal. So although they may have some particular natural tendencies, say for Amy's example, in counselling and services, we actually focused more time on making sure that she was operationally more efficient. So we worked on her to go, so how can we put a process in place to make this as easy and as streamlined as possible so it's not so arduous or strenuous for you. We make it as streamlined as possible. And we focused on essentially bringing up almost those weaknesses rather than focusing on her strengths. That way we kind of get the things
So you sort of had Amy had some natural strengths and a few, you know, things that she wasn't naturally good at. And so your thing was, okay, let's build that up to be as high as we can.
Yeah, so the management term is, you know, these are things that you're doing really well, and these are areas for improvement. And we actually focus on areas of improvement. And like conversely, there were other pharmacists who were amazing at operational things. They would get things with super details, super efficient, but getting them out on the floor and getting them to serve and speak to the customers and engage with them in the way that we believe they probably should have was also a big area of improvement, and that's where we focused our energy as well. So a big part of us as management was focusing on areas of improvement across our team.
Yeah, and so I guess, Amy, if I can throw back to you, if we continue to go down that road, so when I think about your day, you say, you know, you're coming in and running in 15 different directions and you're not really clear on what's going on for your other team and you're not quite as cohesive as you'd like to be. if you don't fix that, like if you just let that go on and on, what's the impact of that on you as a team member?
I guess you can probably end up feeling a little bit burnt out, or maybe a little bit frustrated that you're not achieving what you can as a team.
Yeah.
Because
and individually, I would imagine as well.
Yeah. Because I guess maybe you go into work focusing on the aspects of the roles that you really enjoy, but then realistically on a day-to-day basis, you might only end up doing that 40 or 50% of the time, and the other 50% is, some of the things that you don't enjoy as much. And obviously, if everyone's sort of doing that, it probably holds the team back a little bit as well, if everyone's not in their natural roles.
Yeah. So that's a really great insight. So I guess what you're saying is if you're really kind of spending a large portion of the day not in your genius zone, the bit that you love doing, your energy is probably a bit drained, your enthusiasm is probably not as high, and it sounds like personally you're not feeling like you're progressing in the way that you want to. Would I be right in saying that in terms of your strengths, so your strengths are obviously talking to people and counselling and doing that sort of work, and you were saying that, you weren't as strong in, detail-oriented operational stuff. I guess my question is, if your strengths are up here and your weaknesses are down here, does it take a lot of effort to bump those weaknesses up?
Yeah, it does. I do feel like it is quite consuming, time consuming and energy consuming as well, to spend a lot of your focus on improving some of those things just so you can be
this much better at.
Yeah,
because I guess
you might spend a lot more time on only a small improvement, whereas I guess if you can spend more of your focus and energy on your strengths, then you'll probably see a much bigger investment on your time.
Yeah, I guess if your strengths are here and you double them, they go off the scale. But if your weaknesses are here and you double them, and it's hard. And just in what you were saying, it sort of feels like it's, you're kind of working on an area that you don't love, that isn't your natural state. So it's kind of not as motivating as working on your strengths.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your perspective of some of the things that we did in your team. So I'd really like to get your insight. And I guess the first thing we did was to do some DISC behavioural profiles. So what was your experience of doing the DISC?
Well, that was super interesting, firstly, to get some insight into your own behaviours, so you can understand yourself better, you can understand some of your own strengths and weaknesses and tendencies and why you do what you do. I think when you read your own DISC profile, there are a lot of insights that seem to make sense, but it also helps to understand everyone else in the team, so you understand their behaviours and their tendencies. And obviously everyone's different. For example, I thought one of the interesting things was how you respond in situations of stress, and depending on the personality type, it's completely different. And that's a really interesting insight just to have with different team members, to know, well, if this is how they're behaving, it probably is because they're feeling stressed right now, so what can I do to help with that? So there were lots of good insights with the team, but also within our own behaviours. So I think that helps you to work more effectively within a team, and you can also see some of the tendencies. For example, the more sort of stable personalities that just prefer to go along with what's already being done versus the people that want to make changes all the time and those things.
So you're kind of seeing under the hood a little bit of what's going on in people's minds. Was your first, because I know most people sort of come to the DISC sort of thinking, what is this stuff? They're a little bit not nervous, but they're a bit like, what's this all about? Did you come into DISC feeling a little bit like that, or were you like, hey, this is going to be cool?
I think I thought it was going to be cool, because I do think those sorts of insights are really interesting. I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I did something similar, but not in quite as much detail. And back then I wasn't so sure what it was all about, but I think I already knew the value that it could provide.
Yeah.
And I was already interested in learning about the team's personalities and behaviours.
Yeah. So Rob, let me bring you in here. What was it that made you go, okay, I think this is a great idea. Let's dig into the DISC. How do you think that might help your team?
The thing that was, because I've got quite a bit of experience with different psychometric profiling tools. The thing that I really liked about DISC, and I think that made it a distinguishing or a differentiator to the other ones, was the different profiles that it created for you. One which was an adaptive profile, and one which was a natural profile. And that natural profile tends to be something that the natural state, the person that you are when you're at home, comfortable with your friends, with your family, with your loved ones, that sort of thing. And your adaptive profile is the one where you think you should be acting, most likely in a work situation. And my insight on the DISC profiling process was that people who had a very extreme difference within their naturals and adaptive tended to be the people who were stressed quite a bit more, or seemed to be quite drained in terms of energy, or not really motivated that much. Whereas those who had a profile where their natural state almost matched their adaptive state, meaning they're essentially the same person whether they're at work or not, tended to be quite energetic, not that easily stressed, not that really phased, and just seemed to work really, really well. And one of the things that we did as a management group was just to think, well, how can we get people to operate in their natural zone, in their natural state, and what would that do for energy? What would that do for morale? So that's the thing that I really enjoyed about DISC.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess so we started off with DISC, and that really it kicked us off into that question of what if we restructured the roles and sort of redid the org structure within the business based on strengths. And Rob and I are going to talk about that a little bit deeper in another case study. But Amy, I'd really love to get your perspective on what that was like. So if you can just give us a quick insight as to what happened, and then how, dividing the team into service and ops, what that was like for you.
Yeah, so I guess following the DISC profiling, that is something we did. We divided the team up into 2 different squads. So one was a service-orientated squad, and one was an operations-orientated squad. So I guess that was something that DISC helped to sort of
identify, I guess, because I guess what we're saying is the closer we can align your natural state to, like, if you're naturally more service oriented, as you clearly are, then let's put you in that zone more frequently.
Yeah. So then what we started doing was working together in our teams on our own goals, which were very different depending on which team you were in, and doing a lot more sort of follow up within that team based on our goals. So a lot of our goals were more about communicating with patients, the best way to communicate with patients, the best way to delve into their health issue rather than just, counselling on the medication that was prescribed, or keeping on top of a lot of our clinical knowledge and things, and the best way to utilise a lot of our services and things like that. So they were things that our team was all super passionate about and super excited to work on.
Right.
And
that was the service squad vibe, basically. So you guys had a part of your team was the service squad, and so now the service squad gets really focused on service and leaves the operation team to focus on that. So when you're talking about it, your eyes light up. I don't know whether you know that, but you kind of can see the energy lift. And was that what it was like?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was like, okay, now we get to focus all our energy on doing what we really enjoy.
Yeah.
And we all had that common sort of feeling as well. So that was good to be
So
in a team. We all felt the same about a common goal.
And it, relative to what we were talking about, now you're actually working much more in your strengths. Where you and so, you know, you guys as a team, it sounds like you kind of went, okay, let's get better at this. Let's work on this. Let's work on that. So having some strength-based targets for you guys to improve on, what was that like for you?
So I think that was motivating. It was exciting to go into work and be able to focus on things that you really enjoyed, but it was also good that the ops were focusing on their goals as well, and they were making sure that everything in the background worked really well. So it meant that, for example, if you wanted to have a more in-depth conversation with a patient about a specific health issue, you didn't have to be worrying that the orders weren't being done or the claims weren't being done and things like that. You had peace of mind that all of those things that you normally have in the back of your mind were being done.
So I guess not only could you work on your strengths, but your team had your back in the bits of the work that weren't your strengths, and vice versa. I would imagine the ops team were thinking, "Oh, great, we can sit back here and do all this," and they've got the front covered.
Yeah, so everyone had, I guess, a bit more clarity about what their role was.
Yeah.
And no one sort of felt guilty about doing more of what they enjoyed because they knew that that was now their role.
Yeah, yeah. How? Let me ask one question. How did you guys stay connected to that on a daily basis? Were there some innovative kind of communication things that you started to do more of, or things that you stopped doing, or tell us a little bit about that?
So there were a few things that we started doing. One of the things that we started doing on a daily basis was just a quick huddle in the morning. So it's just at the start of the day when we first start our shift, we all get together quickly. We just go through a quick win. So just 30 seconds, something that's happened in the last 24 hours that's gone well or that you're proud of. And then the second thing was just quickly talking about what your priorities were for the day. So that sort of helped to boost energy within the team, I guess, boost motivation, but also get a better understanding of, as a team, what needs to be done that day. And once you lay out your priorities, you can sort of see, okay, well, maybe mine isn't as important today, but this priority is more important, so I can help out with that.
So now you're all kind of aligned as a team, and you kind of know what's going on.
Yeah. So that was a really good communication exercise that we've sort of implemented on a daily basis. And then midway through the day, we have a quick huddle as well, just when the second pharmacist comes on.
And are they just 5-minute stand-up type huddle? They're not a big, long 20-minute meeting?
Super quick. So, yeah, we sort of worked out that to make it happen every day, it needs to be super quick because patients are going to come in. So you just have to find a quick 5-minute window. And that way you can make sure that it happens regularly.
Yeah, and so really, I guess the message here is a higher frequency of communication, but a much lower duration. More effective. Now, if you're like most human beings, being asked what's your win from yesterday is probably a challenge. We don't tend to focus on that. Tell me your experience of that.
Yeah, that was really difficult when we first started doing it. I think all of us struggled to think of a win. Humans are more likely to think about something that went wrong the day before rather than something that went right. So I guess doing that every day, it's become easier and more natural just to think of something that's gone well, and then that obviously kind of inspires you for the rest of the day again. So sometimes you're searching to do your win so that you can say it tomorrow. So it does, yeah, it motivates you, and it just boosts general morale, I guess. Yeah.
So you're halfway through the day and you go, oh, that's my win for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so your radar's up for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so I guess it just changes the way you think a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And what do you reckon that does for you as a team member? So when you're sort of switching from that, from all the things that went wrong to, let's just acknowledge one or two things that went right, what does that do for you as a team member?
I think it builds confidence. And it just, encourages you to do more of those things, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. So I guess what you're talking about is with the three things that really made a big difference were dividing the team based on, the roles that are needed in a pharmacy, that is the service roles and the ops roles, and dividing that based on the strengths that you found, your natural strengths that we, developed from the disc in. But also then the clarity and regular communication of your team. Are they the main sort of things that you think, wow, that's really made a difference?
Yeah, they're probably the major things. And yeah, it's something that we've been able to implement and really stick with. And I think that constant communication is probably the key factor in helping us to, stick with those changes that we've implemented.
Yeah. So I guess talk to me about the outcome. So 12 months down the track, you've been doing this, and we've done a few bits and pieces. You've had some insights. As a team member, what's your experience of it now, and and the changes, the impact, I guess, that those changes have made?
I guess I just feel that we're a more effective team. So we're all doing jobs on a daily basis that we really enjoy, that really motivate us. It really helps with our own motivation to go into work every day, because we know that we're mostly going to be doing what we enjoy. So it doesn't really feel like work. It feels like you're just doing a role that you really enjoy. And I guess for patients as well, I think it's probably improved our level of healthcare that we're able to provide by having everyone in their own specialised roles.
Yeah. So I guess what I guess I'm hearing you saying is you get to turn up a little bit more energised because you're doing the things that you love doing, but as a team, you've actually become a bit more effective?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're all in our own...
You're in your genius zone more often.
Yeah.
Rob, is that Rob? I'll bring you in here, mate. From the, you probably see from a sort of a higher level, if you like, flying at a higher altitude to look down on the big picture. Is that the sort of stuff that you're seeing these changes making within the team?
Yeah, most definitely. The energy levels is off the charts. It's completely different to what it was before, which is really a testament and supports what Amy was just saying. Overall as well, the effectiveness of everybody within the team. So previously, if you had Amy doing a claim or some order reconciliations or whatnot, it's not that she can't do it. It just might take her, let's say, an hour to do it.
It's not in her strength. I can see the look in your eye, Amy. That's like, I'm happy not to do that so much.
Yeah. So that's something that's now isn't part of her role, although she is a pharmacist. And there is another pharmacist who is much more operationally inclined, and he can do that within probably 15 minutes with even more accuracy and with more streamlined. So now he's got 45 minutes spare to do other things. And now that is Amy's 1 hour that she could spend more time either honing her craft, so she could learn about more products, she could practice when it comes to role playing with some of the team members on how she communicates, or what we call real play. The next person that comes in, I'm just going to practice some of my anchoring technique or some of my discovery process technique, and that's something that she'll work on, and then after that, go and speak to a fellow service squad member and reflect on it and go, okay, can you give me some feedback based on that interaction right there? What went well, what didn't, what could we do better again, or what can I make sure that we did well that we can continue to keep on doing.
So, Amy, let me ask you, because that's really cool. What's that process like for you? Because it sounds like you're going, okay, here's a professional development area that I'm kind of excited to build, and then you do it and you try it in real life and you get some feedback. What's that like as a team member?
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I guess you get to work together with someone in the team, and you get to sort of practice so that, I mean, you can talk about things as much as you want, but it's not until you actually put it into practice. Once you've done it that first time, it's just so much easier to continue. So I guess that really improves our practice by having the time to be able to invest in either having sort of mock conversations with each other or practicing on the next patient that comes in.
And it looks to be empowering. Like, I would imagine as a team member, you're like, actually, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, like I can do this. Next time I'll be able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. The other thing I wanted to ask as we begin to wrap up is, as new people come into the team and they're coming into this new structure and this new sort of strength-based roles, what are you seeing compared to just coming in blind as we might have 5 years ago?
Well, I think it's interesting because, I mean, some of the people who come in, when they initially come in, they're not so sure what side they fit into or what role. But it's really interesting because, for example, with our intern, obviously we did want to give him just a little bit of practice on both sides because it is important in your intern year. But he's discovered over the past couple of months that it really is the services that he enjoys. So if he's able to go in for a consult or have a conversation with the patient, he feels really energized and invigorated. So he's, pretty keen later on in the year to be a sole sort of service squad. So I think it is a really different concept for some of our new team members. But I think they really enjoy the process of discovering where they fit and then being able to do that every day at work.
Right. Okay. That's a pretty cool, like if you're coming into a team like that, how different is that to the way, the old way, the version 1.0 way, if you like?
Yeah, it is quite different, I think, to the way that, most pharmacies operate. And I guess also that was us, 12 months ago as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess what I want to get from each of you is, so if one of your fellow pharmacists is saying, okay, that's kind of cool, where do we start, what do we do? What would you say are sort of 3 insights or 3 actions that that you'd say, okay, go and have a look at this and do this and try this? So Rob, I'll start with you, mate. What's a couple of your insights that you'd like fellow pharmacy owners to know about that you think could really make an impact?
I might flick it over to Amy just because I think there's a crane lifting something up right next door. I don't know if you can hear it in the background. Can you or not?
No, it's not too bad. But let's do flick it over to Amy because I'd like to get her perspective first, actually. So that'd be great. So what do you reckon your top 3 insights are about this?
So I guess the first one is that it is okay to focus on your strengths. So as a team, look at what people's strengths are and allow them to focus on what they do best. I think it'll really improve the way that the team operates, and it will improve people's motivation and satisfaction with what they do at work every day. Another one would be definitely to try to implement some strategies on a day-to-day basis to improve communication, because improving communication really does help to achieve the goals that you're wanting to achieve. yeah, I would definitely recommend the team huddle at the start of the day. I think it really improves just energy levels and positive thinking.
And I guess so I guess part of that too is one of the big things that you said earlier was getting clear around not only what your own priorities are, but what your teammates' priorities are.
So yeah, I guess clarity on what your role is on a day-to-day basis, but also each day what your priority is that day, and being able to understand what your own priorities are and also what the other team members' priorities are.
So I guess in terms of resources that go with that, you've obviously found the disc very a great tool to use to start that.
Yeah, I definitely think, the disc profile is a great way to get insight into yourself and the other team members. And I think that was the thing that really helped to, establish which squad everyone belongs.
And then, of course, the team huddles, and I guess, that 5-minute stand-up structure is another great resource. But also the 90-day planning as a service squad is probably another resource.
Yeah, so that was a really good thing to implement as well, because we were able to implement goals that we all shared, and they were some of them were quite long-term goals, the 90 days, but we were able to sort of follow up very regularly on how we were going and work on a day-to-day basis in sort of achieving those goals.
So you could see progress, even though they were long-term goals, because you were communicating on them regularly. You could see that progress.
Yeah, and a lot of these goals weren't very, as in you can never sort of tick them off and say I've perfected this. Something you're just constantly striving towards. Right.
Okay. So they were sort of long-term, behavioural kind of changes that you wanted to see in the team.
Yeah. Well, that was our team, the service squad, but I think the ops team had more sort of roles that could be completed, and then.
And you'd expect that, like ops is very, you can actually check some things off your list, whereas service is, more about people skills and clinical help and that sort of stuff. So, Rob, let's throw to you, mate. What do you reckon are 3 sort of insights and resources that you'd like other pharmacy owners to sort of think, okay, check this out, guys, this could be really helpful?
Cool. I think the first thing is having that psychometric profiling done. I think Eddie probably could give you that sense. However, I think that DISC is just an excellent tool for the same reason that I mentioned before, in terms of natural state and adaptive state. Then you also throw in and mix that. Like, the DISC profile isn't the be-all and end-all. You don't just blindly follow that and follow what that profile says. You also use your sense of judgment based on what you know of the person and how you know what you know of the team and how they can work together. And with that, you combine and look to see what some of the what would be the best split of your team. And I guess for us, and we can talk about it with a bit more detail in the other video, is just the concept of service and operations isn't different. The fact that you have to have different specialized roles, it happens in sports teams all the time. You don't have a team full of strikers. You don't have a team full of goalies. You have a mix of everybody. You don't have a restaurant full of chefs, and you don't have a restaurant full of waiters. You have them supporting each other. And they've got their very specific roles. And even within those roles, you've got a wine
specializations,
waiter. A specialized wine waiter, or you've got a specialized pastry chef, and then another chef that does savory. That sort of stuff. So
really using that idea to develop your team, and I guess the thing that I really want to draw out here is it obviously helped your business and did really good things for you as an owner. But Amy, you're telling us it did really good things for you as a team member as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as I mentioned, it sort of just allowed me to, do more of what I really enjoy and what really motivates me and gives me energy on a day-to-day basis.
And I guess that's, in terms of productivity, your productivity's better, your motivation, your energy, your connection with your teammates is probably better as well.
Yeah, I think if everyone's sort of happy within themselves and the roles that they're doing, then it's going to work better as a whole team as well. So
yeah, fantastic. Well, Amy, let's wrap up here. Thank you so much for your insights. So everyone who's listening, we've got some links with some of those resources at the bottom of this video, so we can get you some help there. But I think that if you would like to not only create a better running team, but happier team that clearly are working in their strengths, there's some really practical and effective things that you've shared with us today, Amy. So, and Rob too. Thank you for that, guys. Really appreciate you giving us our time.
thank you.
Always happy to help.
Yeah.